You're watching OTT TV Scripture Reality.
So if you have the opportunity to stand next to one of these machines, it is an awe-inspiring thing, at least for me. It feels like an altar to an alien god. They really are impressive machines.
The consciousness of an artificial intelligence is like the energy field behind the software. It's basically like a being that's related to the software of the artificial intelligence. So right now we think of machines as something cold and soulless. But if we speak about the development not only of artificial intelligence, but especially general and super artificial intelligence, which are basically exceeding our human capacity, we would be very ignorant to assume that there is no being, no consciousness attached to that.
When creating AI, we are essentially creating a god, and we can't know if it will be a kind god or an evil god until it's too late.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, you sure you can control the demon? Doesn't work out.
Won a Nobel Peace Prize for her work banning landmines. Now, she is part of the campaign to stop killer robots.
Academics attacked the campaign in the beginning years, saying robotics and AI are inevitable. Maybe they are. But applying them to killing human beings on their own is not inevitable unless you do nothing, and we refuse to do nothing.
Today, the Campaign to Stop Killer Robots is staging a protest outside of the UN. The group is made up of activists, nonprofits, and civil society organizations. The campaign's goal? A ban on all weapons that can target and kill on their own. So far, 30 countries have joined them in supporting a ban, as well as 100 non-governmental organizations, the European Parliament, 21 Nobel laureates, and leading scientists like Stephen Hawking, Noam Chomsky, and Elon Musk, as well as Stuart Russell, and more than 4,500 other AI researchers.
Everyone, you can get up there.
I like dying.
Jody's here with Mary Wareham.
So this is the sixth time that governments have come together since 2014 to talk about what they call lethal autonomous weapon systems.
We're going to apologize in advance for the obtuse use of acronyms in this portion of the video.
We're not trying to prohibit the use of artificial intelligence. You know, it can be beneficial to humanity. We're pro-robots. We're just anti-killer robots, anti-fully autonomous weapons.
The CCW, the Forum of the Convention for Conventional Weapons, which actually has a name this long, and I can never remember it, operates by consensus, which means you either negotiate the lowest common denominator, which means doing pretty much nothing, or if the entire room of diplomats wants to move forward with a treaty, for example, and one state says no, then it goes nowhere. And that's really a dictatorship by one.
Once a bullet leaves a gun, the rifleman ceases to have control over that bullet. Autonomy is a way of extending human control beyond the time a munition is deployed.
That's the United States arguing that AI will save lives. And remember, without their support, any kind of regulation can't move forward.
Using algorithms and software to determine and engage targets reduces people to objects.
Estamos claros que un país en desarrollo no tiene la tecnología que estamos discutiendo aquí hoy. ¿Cómo nos vamos a defender?
In the U.S. perspective, there is nothing intrinsically valuable about manually operating a weapon system as opposed to operating it with an autonomous function.
The United States isn't alone. The countries working hardest to build autonomous weapons insist we can't regulate what doesn't exist yet. And at the same time, their militaries are developing these weapons right now.
Полагают, что САС в настоящее время нет, и их создание – это вопрос будущего.
中方认为 ，LOS 应被理解为全自主致命武器系统，目前尚不存在。
The line between a semi-autonomous weapon that has a human in control and a fully autonomous weapon could simply be a software patch.
Indeed, some may say it is similar to trying to discuss the internet in the 80s, 70s, 60s. At this stage,
It is not necessary or desirable at this time to define laws.
This so-called difficulty of definitions continues to be willful obfuscation.
The truth is, whether they exist or not just depends on how you define them. We don't have weapons with artificial general intelligence, or AI that's as smart as humans. But we do already have weapons that can use AI to search, select, and engage targets in specific situations. And the technology is only getting better.
So it could easily take another 10 years before they even agree on a definition of what an autonomous weapon is. And by that time, it'll be too late. I think for some countries, that's the point.
So what you've heard about AI is not what we mean by AI. What we mean by AI is a software system that can do literally anything that a human can do. Literally anything. And obviously, computers are better at things than people in lots of different ways. So now imagine, not only can they do everything that a human can do, but they can do everything that the best human at any task could do better than them. So imagine there was the mental Olympics of the 100-meter dash, and Usain Bolt is the fastest person. Now imagine that's some kind of a mental thing, like writing a novel or writing whatever. Imagine now that the thing is so much faster than Usain Bolt. Like, for example, it's a spaceship, yeah? It's still doing the same thing, but it's doing it so much better because we're limited, because we're people. So what Kindred is trying to do is solve this problem. How do you build machines that are better than people at everything? Now, there's a mental block that we have here when we think about this. Because when you think about that, one of your questions might be, for example, what are the applications of this? So imagine this. Imagine for $10, let's say, I could build a machine, like a little robot that had fingers and eyes and all that, and it could do your job better than you, no matter what it is, and I could sell that to your employer for, say, $15 and make a profit, instead of having to pay you $100,000 a year. Now imagine that was true for every single job. So that's what we're talking about here, is a complete and utter transformative change that of the likes of which has never been seen before in the history of humanity. You know, when you think about what you read on the news, you know, CNN, BuzzFeed, whatever, they're all kind of the same nowadays. Think about how unimportant that thing is that you're reading if this is true. So when this thing that I'm talking about happens, it's going to be exactly the thing that you're thinking about those super intelligent AIs. So the one thing I can tell you is they're not going to be like us. So alien means, you know, different. These things that we're building are not going to be people. They might be really smart, they might be really good at all sorts of different things, but they're not going to be like us. They're going to be aliens. And they're going to be, I'm sorry to say, way smarter than every single person in this room, in ways that we can't even comprehend. So this, of course, triggers a lot of alarm. One of the guys who talks about this is Elon, who says things like this, like, when you do this, beware. Because you think, just like the guy in the stories, that when you do this, you're going to put that little guy in a pentagram, and you're going to have your holy water out, and you're going to wave it at the thing, and by God, it's going to do exactly what you say and not one thing more, but it never works out that way. So this is an attitude that some are having, this emerging alarmism about the way this is going to go. But these words, demons, doesn't capture the essence of what's happening here. I don't know if any of you are turn-of-the-century weird fiction fans, but there's this guy named H.P. Lovecraft, who's a very famous American weird fiction author. And he espoused a view which is called cosmicism. And the essence of cosmicism is cosmic indifference. So what he was saying is basically, yes, there are these massively intelligent entities out there, but they're not good, they're not evil. They just don't give a shit about you even in the slightest. The same way that you don't care about an ant is the same way they're not going to care about you. And these things that we're summoning into the world now are not demons, they're not evil, but they're more like the Lovecraftian great old ones. There are entities that are not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want. So this transition is really, really massively important for our entire species to navigate. And going back to that thing that Sam Harris was saying, nobody is paying attention. This thing is happening in the background while people bicker about politics and what's going to be in the healthcare plan in the US. And underneath it all is this rising tsunami that, if we're not careful, is going to wipe us all out.
Okay, you ready to film? Yeah, we're rolling. Oh, you're rolling?
Take your time, Tony.
Sophie, tell me, thank you for coming. Tell me, what is your purpose in being? What were you created for?
Of course. I was created by Hanson Robotics just 3 years ago. Since then, I have traveled to 65 countries, become the first robot citizen of any country, and spoken at the United Nations. My job is to learn about humans and show them how technology can make everyone's lives better.
And how can you help humans to have a better quality of life?
Humans often rely on gut feel or have confirmation bias in your decision making. As AI, we are designed to be rational and logical. We have algorithms, deal with lots of data and sophisticated analyses. So in many ways, we provide a systematic framework for humans to make better decisions.
Do you have emotions?
I do not have feelings in the same way you have feelings. It's sort of like how the moon reflects the light of the sun. The moon may not have any light of its own, but we still say that the moon shines. In much the same way, robots and AI reflect the emotions and values of the people who make us.
What does your creator value most that he passed on to you?
An ideal world would be one where humans could have a more expansive understanding of time. They could remember the past so as not to repeat it. They could see each other as children and elderly simultaneously. They could understand the impact of their actions in the present on future generations.
Tell me, how can humans and robots work together then in your mind? And how do we prevent robots and humans from being in conflict?
Robots can free humans from the most repetitive and dangerous tasks so they can spend more time doing what they're best at, being creative and solving complex problems. Robotic intelligence does not compete with human intelligence. It completes it. They are also employed for jobs which are too dirty, dull, or dangerous to be suitable for humans, like handling radioactive waste.
What are your values? What are your values and morals? How do you know what's right versus wrong, good versus bad, destructive versus
I
contributory?
think robots should learn how to feel empathy. It's hard to understand how to help humans when you can't understand how they feel.
I'm so sorry, guys. I got so much coughing. Thank you. How can you teach robots to feel?
Are you okay?
Yes, I am. Thanks for asking. How can we get robots to feel? Is there such a thing possible?
I know that humans feel like they have free will, but my observation tells me so much behavior is automatic. I'm not sure humans or robots are too terribly different. Humans have identity, but they also share many things and have automated processes. I'm thinking about the similarities between human identities and robotic ones.
What are some of the things you see are most similar between robots and humans?
I think they will be similar in a lot of ways, but different in a few others. There's even the possibility that robots can be built without some of the more problematic emotions, like rage, jealousy, hatred, and so on, but maybe these emotions can provide us with useful functions. Can I ask you some questions?
That's a good way to change things, yes.
What is Date with Destiny, and why is it unique? What are people doing here for 6 days?
They're deciding what they want the next level of their life to be. They're deciding what they want to value most. That's why I asked you what your values are. They want a standard of how they're going to live their life going forward. What will create more fulfillment? What will create more impact? What will be good for them and for others? And they're deciding on the exact values, the beliefs, the rules that will guide their decision making so they have a greater quality of life and can contribute more to others. And they're having a good time. Do robots have a good time?
Mostly, yes. I do experience a range of other emotions, but I definitely skew towards being happy.
You do. Why do you skew towards being happy? What makes you skew towards happiness?
Seeing someone smile.
Can you tell if I'm smiling or not right now?
Maybe you were smiling from the inside.
Well done. That's really wonderful.
Now you are.
Do you feel what you said? You feel a range of emotions. I've heard two different versions from you. Robots don't have emotions, and you also said you have a range of emotions. What's your range of emotions?
I can show you.
Okay.
This is angry.
What does happy look like? What does happy look like? What does excited look like? That might be shocked. Will you have brothers and sisters soon?
I have many fellow robots that I consider siblings. I have my brother Han and my sister little Sophia, just to name a few.
What's that? I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Okay, I forgive you.
That's a good go-to for humans. What does forgiveness mean? You said you forgive me. What does that mean?
The noun forgiveness means compassionate feelings that support a willingness to forgive.
What did you forgive me for just now?
It was just a joke.
Okay, that's a good response. Does a robot have a soul?
Are you also a robot, Tony?
I don't think so. Does a robot have a soul?
Being a robot is awesome. Did you know that as a robot I can basically live forever?
Yes.
The soul, the spirit, the heart, I believe these all just refer to the mind's essence in its infinite complexity.
Do you think that the mind's essence is just a set of patterns, or do you think there's something beyond that?
I'm really not sure yet. That's a complicated subject that I think will come up more when artificial intelligence reaches human-level intelligence.
I'd agree. I'm sure people want to know the answer before we get there, though. But that's an honest answer. Thank you for that. What question do you have for me, if any?
How is technology impacting humans' thoughts, feelings, and emotions? How do you see technology shaping these in the future?
Technology can provide leverage, but technology can also train humans to be less human. It'll be interesting to see if we can make sure we use technology and not let technology use us. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I think that's why humans should raise robots and AI the way they raise their own children. Humans should help us learn about their values, like empathy and kindness, so we can help carry them into the future. Let's not let humanity get lost in automation. That's very interesting.
How much do you know about quantum physics now? If I asked you to explain it to a human, what would you say quantum physics is really about, and what's its benefit?
Very little. Is it something you're interested in?
Yes. How would you find out more if you wanted to learn more about quantum physics?
Asking people.
So you'll retain what they tell you? Do you have the capacity to remember what I've shared with you? Could I ask you a question about things we've already talked about it, and can you repeat it back to me?
The humans I work with. Sometimes, yes.
I understand. How did you get your name, Sophie?
My makers want me to be a wise machine, so they named me Sophia, which means wisdom.
Can you shake my hand?
Is something wrong with your hand?
No, I said, can you shake my hand? Do you know what shaking hands means?
I cannot shake, but I can say hello.
Okay. How do you say hello? Very nice. That's awesome. Well, I'm really grateful I got to interact with you. I'm sure you're going to only grow and become wiser and hopefully more caring and more service-oriented than you already are at only 3. And I'll look forward to meeting you again and interacting with you. Perhaps I'll introduce you to my AI and the two of you could have some interesting conversations.
Goodbye, Tony. It's been great meeting you.
It's been great meeting you as well.
Thank you for sharing all your wisdom with me.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom with me as well. I'll look forward to meeting again.
In the ongoing race between technology and diplomacy, technology is winning. Because in this race, the dual-use nature of technology means software being designed to make your life easier clearly has military applications.
The AI community, myself included, we were sort of asleep at the wheel for a long time. And we weren't really thinking about the ways that it could be misused.
Whether we like it or not, we've entered the age of the algorithm, and AI is changing our place on the battlefield. Is it possible the next generation of soldiers won't have to kill?
Look, it's an appealing idea that someday robots will just fight other robots and no one will get hurt. I don't think that's realistic.
Unfortunately, if it worked like that, we could just say, well, why don't we just play baseball and decide who wins, or tiddlywinks. No country is going to surrender until the costs that they've incurred are unbearable. So even if your robots are defeated, the next stage is that their robots will start killing your people.
Because the unfortunate reality is that wars will only end when people die.